Hi, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Sarah and this is my little corner of YouTube where we talk about everything well-being, self-care, self-love, self-appreciation, gratitude, all the good stuff, positivity to do with womanhood and more specifically motherhood, because it's a bit of a crazy old ride, that one, isn't it? Now, every week I talk to a wonderful, interesting, inspirational woman who has a story to tell, or maybe a business, or works in those areas. However, this week, my love, it's just me and you, because I want to tell you about these 3 books. Now, I don't want to be dramatic, but I'm tempted to say life-changing. These books have been so profound to me. Listen, I've been on a bit of a journey the last couple of years, and I realised that a lot of the stuff that I was learning about and that was prompting a lot of my thinking, a lot of my mindset shifts and a lot of changes came from books, amongst other things, but mostly books. And these 3 were just so, I feel quite emotional about them. Anyway, if you are a woman, if you know a woman, if you're raising a woman, all of the above, then I urge you to read at least one, if not all 3 of these magical books. All right, what are they then? Let me tell you. In order that I read them, the first one is Sara Pascoe, Animal. I love this woman so much. Sara Pascoe is such a legend. She's incredibly intelligent and obviously hilarious. I say obviously because she is a comedian. Read that one first, amazing. And actually I read it a little while ago and I was having a little flick through with my highlighter ready for this video, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot how funny it was. The second one I read, I'd be surprised if you've not heard of this one because it's done so well. Florence has been so successful with this book. I'm so pleased for her. I'm saying that like I know it, like I'm so proud of Florence. But this book has been around for a little while and it's everywhere. I'll be surprised if you've not heard about this, but if you've not yet read it, I suggest that you do, particularly if I found this quite profound being the mother of a girl, like knowing that I'm going to raise a woman through her adolescence into womanhood. I was like, and then just recently, like the last couple of days, I've just finished Glennon Doyle's Untamed. I think this is fairly recently out. I don't have my facts and figures. I think this was out last year. I think it was out in 2020. Oh my god, the amount of tears that I cried. It's not a sad book, don't worry, it's not sad, but it is profound. Glennon is a deep thinker. It's very profound, it's very poetic. She uses a lot of metaphors and similes. It's powerful. That's what it is. It's powerful. It's like a force of a book, and it was like that kind of book, but like magical and I think for a lot of women transformational. So that's my 3 books. Now listen, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell you a little bit about each one. We won't be here for hours. I've already spoken for 3 minutes and 48 seconds. This is going to be quite a short, snappy video, but I just wanted to give you a little taste of each book, and then yeah, do get in touch, leave a comment, or go and find me on Instagram, Tassie_mumsclub, and slide into my DMs or send me a little comment or something. There'll be a post about this, but I really want to kind of continue conversation about these because they're just right. Okay, I'm not going to go on for hours, but listen, I'm going to read you a little snippet just to give you a little taster. So I'm going to do them in that order again. Okay, Sara Pascoe. Also, look how like well loved this book is. I don't know whether you can see, it's absolutely covered in like coffee stains. It's been on my, it was on my it's got like little notes in it. I think my daughter's had a little scribble in there somewhere. It's like the spine is all like wobbly, you know, and it's been like thumbed through. It's now listen, this book is like the cleverest, most brilliantly laced together combination of incredibly thoroughly scientifically researched information plus kind of human history, like evolutionary history and the science behind that, plus lovely anecdotal little snippets from Sara and her from her life, little kind of anecdotes, really funny little tales and stuff, and a big old dollop of humour. Here's the thing, it delivers incredibly fascinating scientific information about being a woman, physically, mentally, emotionally, but it's so easy to read. It's so easy to digest this information because the way Sara has put it together. So it's called The Autobiography of a Female Body. And just to give you a little idea of the kind of contents, because I know that might be a bit like, so what's it about? So you've got, are you a woman? What does it mean to be a woman? Where's the line? Scientifically, emotionally, what is it? Love, falling in love, how we fall in love, happily ever after. This bit is fascinating. It's like, it's about love, but it's also like hormonally, scientifically, what that means, kind of from an evolutionary perspective, why humans behave in the way they do around sex and love. I still think there's a bit in this book, and I couldn't find it, but it was about kind of monogamy, and then also the way that people chop in, and the way particularly that women kind of chop and change partners, and kind of from an evolutionary perspective why that's better. And anyway, there was some truth bombs in there that I was like, holy moly, it was so interesting. And then there's a whole body section. Is there any body with you? Bums, boobs and clever old fat, blood and babies. No babies, just blood, and you have genitals. Again, a really perfect balance of like anatomy, science, the way that our bodies work, but then also how that fits into a weird kind of societal framework. Really amazing stuff. And then a section at the end about consent, fear, fantasy versus fiction, the dangers of assumption, and how old is enough. So like just the most amazing thing. Right, I've highlighted this little, hang on, I'll read, I promise this is the last thing on this book. So this is in the section that's to do with this concept about parental investment, about when you pair up with people, kind of from a relationship perspective, why we do that, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it says, a woman cannot raise a child all by herself. I'd be annoyed at that statement if I was reading this. I come from a single parent family where my mum did everything. Perhaps you did too? My mum probably could put up a tent in the African savannah with a baby on her tit and placenta dangling between her legs. She's that kind of lady. When I say that one parent isn't enough, I'm talking about pre-civilised times in a hunter-gatherer society. We have stocked fridges now and pizza delivery and hardly any wolves, so it's easier. Although, if my mum's temper was anything to go by, still really, really hard. And I think that's just like quite a nice little demonstration, that paragraph, of the combination between kind of facts and figures and like her very easy to read, anecdotal, frankly hilarious writing style. Love it. If you're not aware of Sara Pascoe, please check her out. She did a BBC like comedy sitcom thing as well. She's got other books. Amazing. Love her. Okay, enough. Women Don't Owe You Pretty by the legendary, I'm just looking at the cover and the reflection was so nice, Florence Given, who is an artist and force of nature and feminist and legendary person. So check her out on Instagram. This book is absolutely beautiful. It's got the most amazing artwork in it. It's all like this very 70s vibes. Please don't look too closely at my nails because I gave them a little lick of paint before here and I've not done a very good job. It's got these really cool bits of artwork. This one is a book that I wish I had 15 years ago when I was a teenager, when I was entering into womanhood with little to no guidance. That's not fair. It's not found my mother, but do you know what I mean? This is a book that I wish I had as a teenager, as entering into womanhood. It gives you so much things, so many things to think about. And again, there were some tears shed at this bit. She has a really kind of hard-hitting section about body dysmorphia, body positivity and eating disorders and stuff like that. And I remember reading that in the bath, and I was like, and I just cried and cried. Just that it really shines a light on, I mean, it's a very feminist book. It really shines a light on what it means to be a woman and a girl in this society, and that can be really hard, I think, to deal with. But look, it's so empowering, and again, just so digestible. It's like in these tiny little chunks. There's like nakedness everywhere, and she swears, and it's honest, and it's raw, and it's just really, really beautiful. Let me read you a tiny little bit. This is chapter 3. You are the love of your own life. And I mean, absolutely sold already. Crumbs can't feed me. I want the cake, bitch. Anyway, let me read this out to you. Life is too short not to love the shit out of yourself. Most of the time, self-love and self-care are sold in a way that just further perpetuates the need for women to be constantly desirable and palatable. Treat yourself, buy this face mask, pamper this, pamper that, shave your legs, moisturise them. We're not trying to sell you anything. This is about you. It's self-care. I don't know about you, but years of internalising the messages about how women's bodies should look and the rigorous standards they're held to made me feel as though my body didn't belong to me. This cannot be eradicated by a stranger placing hot stones on my back. This kind of self-love takes me right back to square one, valuing myself based on the desirability of my face and body. While making myself up and feeling cute does bring me joy, it's only a temporary fix. It's instant short-term validation. It's a distraction. And then there's this whole bit about a really profound moment she had when she was 14. It's amazing. So yes, quite blunt, quite honest. Here she is. An absolute babe. Yeah, if you're not aware already, highly recommend. If you are the mother or auntie or friend or anything of a young woman, maybe like an adolescent woman. I've seen this recently in shops in like a little pocket size, like a little mini version. So that might be worth checking out for the old Christmas produce. Okay, Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I mean, the little Sunday Times best-selling author. The little like snippets, the little reviews are by Brené Brown and Adele. So that's the kind of vibe we're at. Brené Brown and Adele. And Oprah Winfrey and Reese Witherspoon. Emma Watson, Anne Hathaway. Oh, Fern Cotton. Oh, well done, Fern. Bryony Gordon. Anyway, look, it's Glennon is amazing. I'm a recent discoverer of Glennon Doyle, and I'm just in love with her. I think she's amazing. Now, I listened to a podcast that was recommended. Oh my God, who recommended it the other day? Someone on Instagram. Oh, who was it? No, it wasn't. It was in an email. It was in an email by Pipling's mother baby group locally. Anyway, she recommended, there's a podcast on Spotify, and it was between Brené Brown and Glennon Doyle, and they were talking about this book, and I listened to the first bit of it because then I fell asleep, because I always put podcasts on at bedtime, which is stupid. But they were talking about it, and if you have just read it, or you're interested in reading it, maybe go and listen to that podcast, because it was a really good like little insight. And they were talking on that podcast about, she wrote it once and then she was like, I think it's a bit shit, and she'd written this whole book about being untamed and wild and rewilding and finding our wildness and our natural selves and being true to ourselves as women. And she'd kind of packaged that up in a very structured, kind of expected format. And then she kind of started again and she created this version. And she's if you're into kind of, you know, literary stuff. It's really interesting because she then structured it in such a way that it was meant to be like pacey and wild and all over the place and unexpected. And there's this whole metaphor about a cheetah, and she wanted it to be like pacey like a cheetah, which is just so interesting. And it's broken into these tiny little stories, these tiny little kind of, this one's called Eyes, this one's called Memos, this one's called Buckets. They're about 2 pages long each, 2 or 3 pages, between 2 and 5 pages, something like that. Loads of just like little sections, little stories, and they're often an anecdote or a story from Glennon's life which represents very poetically a point that she's trying to make. Okay, so it's all about authenticity as a woman and breaking free of society structures. And Glennon she battled with addiction and some quite serious mental health issues, and she was in a kind of a white picket fence marriage kind of situation, family situation. She broke free of all of that stuff, and she left her husband, and she's now she's met her true love, and she's with she's in a lesbian relationship. No, marriage. She's married actually to Abby. Oh, what's her name? Abby. Anyway, it's all about that kind of stuff. And there was a lot of tears reading this book because it's just so profound. And she talks a lot about her kind of charitable work, and she talks about kind of racial injustice and kind of sexual injustice and poverty and political issue, all sorts of stuff. It's both broad and very, very personal. I'm going to read you this little opening section. It's just 1 paragraph, but this is the moment that she found the perfect metaphor to kind of sum up this whole concept that she was trying to portray. So she went to a zoo with her family, with her daughters, and was watching a cheetah run, and this cheetah had been raised alongside a Labrador, and they brought it out every day for the visitors of the zoo, and they got the cheetah to chase a Land Rover that had this like bunny on the back of it as a spectacle. That's the context. Let me read you this last bit. While the zookeeper began sharing facts about cheetahs born into captivity, my older daughter, Tish, nudged me and pointed to Tabitha. Tabitha's the cheetah. There, in that field, away from Minnie and the zookeepers, Minnie's the dog. Tabitha's posture had changed. Her head was high and she was stalking the periphery, tracing the boundaries the fence created, back and forth, stopping only to stare somewhere beyond the fence. It was like she was remembering something. She looked regal and a little scary. Tish whispered to me, "Mummy." She turned wild again. I nodded at Tish and kept my eyes on Tabitha as she stalked. I wished I could ask her, "What's happening inside you right now?" I knew what she'd tell me. She'd say, "Something's off about my life. I feel restless and frustrated. I have this hunch that everything was supposed to be more beautiful than this. I imagine fenceless, wide open savannas. I want to run and hunt and kill. I want to sleep under an ink-black, silent sky filled with stars. It's all so real, I can taste it." Then she'd look back at the cage, the only home she's ever known. She'd look at the smiling zookeepers, the bored spectators, and her panting, bouncing, begging best friend, the lab. She'd sigh and say, "I should be grateful. I have a good enough life here. It's crazy to long for what doesn't even exist." I'd say, "Tabitha, you're not crazy. You're a goddamn cheetah." I mean, I don't think there's much more I can say about this. I want to read it again immediately. I'm just gonna, because I only finished it last week, I'm gonna let it settle and I'm going to come back to it at another time. But yeah, profound, incredibly moving, thought-provoking. If you're a woman, please read this. Please read all of these. So that's my little snapshot review. I've kept it kind of fairly snappy for me. So do let me know if you've read any of these. If you haven't read any of them, I'd be interested to know which one you're most drawn to, which one you think you might pick up first. And yes, do let me know. Thank you so much for sticking around. Look, if this was interesting in some way, I'd love a little like. Who doesn't like a little like? Give us a little like. Feel free to keep the conversation going. I'd be really interested to hear from you. Either leave a comment, come and find me on Instagram or Facebook. I've just set up a Facebook for Tassie. And I'm excited. I'll see you again next week. Thank you so much.